Hi everybody. I don't do this often, so please be kind. I have two key messages. My name is Jason, as James said. I have two key messages today. The first message is, when does it make sense to consider taking a jump into leadership? And the second message is about how do you set up the right environment to make sure that you develop into a world-class leader. So I'm going to take step one, first of all. So for me personally, it was critically important that when I looked in the mirror every day, I could say unequivocally that I was in the top 1% of people in terms of enterprise software selling. I wanted to test myself against the best of the very best, and until I'd done that, I never felt that I was able to take that jump into leadership confidently. So between 2011 and 2014, I worked for Gartner, and despite being sort of ranked number one in the world several years in a row, I knew that I was just a natural salesperson. I was unpredictable, I was inconsistent, I just had creative flair, and I had Gartner on my LinkedIn, which meant that I could get a meeting in any CIO's office in the country, give or take. I was not an A player, and I knew if I needed to develop into one and develop into a world-class leader, I needed to learn the tangible data points that would allow me to be able to, first of all, know how to run a personal business myself, but also then in turn teach other people to do that. So that's a key moment, right? So you kind of reflect and go, well, if I'm not getting that here, despite being the number one in the world, I have to seek out new leadership. So at that point I made a decision, and I worked with a headhunter to find the best of the best people that I could go and work with, and that led me to a conversation with Jeremy Duggan, who was the GM of AppDynamics at the time, and still is. And when you meet Jeremy and you meet the leadership that report into him, you very quickly realize what excellence truly looks like and what that bar tangibly means. Because what is the measure of excellence and how do we define it? And there it was very clear. So in their eyes, it was based on four very key things. The first one was you need to commit to the process totally and no shortcuts. The second one was being able to follow the leading indicators quarter after quarter, year after year, consistently with no debate. The third one was being able to do $1 million every quarter as your base business and be able to run a big deal on top. And the fourth thing was being able to do an 8-figure deal. They were the four things that you needed to hit in order to be classified in the top 1% in that company. So the bar was clear. And I'd arrived at the company that allowed me to understand, well, that's the measurement of success. And equally, although that was important, it was also important to see what hitting that bar did for the people that did it. So how it transformed their lives and how it changed their career trajectory and what that meant if you committed to it totally and utterly. So that journey for me took about 3.5 years to do, and that's a story for another time in terms of what that journey looked like. I'm happy to discuss it in more detail. It was very painful and very difficult. But fast forwarding to the moment where those measurements were complete and I could look in the mirror and go, okay, you've done it, was July 2018. And I knew at that point that I was ready for leadership because not only did I have the skill based on the bar of excellence, but I also had the will. So you need both of those things in tandem to be able to take on a leadership role. And that will element for me was, do I care about the families of 6 other people just as much as my own? So am I able to invest in 6 other people's success in the same level that I invest in my own? That takes a lot of, salespeople are typically selfish. We're typically in it for ourselves. And I think it takes a journey of discovery where you go, I'm ready for that transition. So that came for me at that point. So the first message I have on the key lesson number 1 is this, and this is my own personal perspective. It's don't sell yourself short on what excellence really needs to be, and seek out people that can give you the playbook that changes your career. Don't settle to jump into leadership just because it makes sense, because somebody said it made sense. You have an opportunity and an obligation to yourself to go find leaders who can transform your lives. And it's very difficult to go back to that moment once you've made the jump into leadership. So my advice is don't sell yourself short. That's the first lesson. So moving into lesson number 2, in terms of setting yourself up for success. In the same way that you seek out leaders to turn you into a brilliant individual contributor, you seek out leaders to turn you into a great leader. Those two aren't necessarily the same thing. Being a brilliant individual contributor is about growing revenue. It's not about recruitment. It's not about retention. and that's only one element of the 3 R's that defines a great go-to-market strategy. So with the first one, revenue, it's about execution. If you find the best executors on the planet, you will be a brilliant executor. But when you talk about recruitment, it's a very people-orientated thing. There are values that you care about. There are cultural things you care about. When you talk about retention, it's building a culture that you care about personally that will allow you to be authentic in that environment. So when you think about those things, it might not be that the people that you work for reflect the ability for you to grow as a leader. They might reflect your ability to grow as an individual contributor. So in the same way that you were thoughtful at the beginning to go, I need to find the best people to make me great, you now need to take a moment to do the same thing again and qualify, are these the same people that are going to make me into a world-class leader? And at that moment, then you reflect and go, well, what is my criteria for being a great leader? So for me, the first one was I needed to be able to test myself in an environment that was outside of my comfort zone. I believe that true leadership is being a maverick and stepping outside your zone and not just being a follower of other leaders. Because are you a real leader if you're simply a follower of other leaders? The second thing is I wanted to be able to give measurable value to another company. So not just improve as a marginal gain in terms of value in an existing business. I wanted to be able to bring meaningful transformation to a business that really valued that commodity. Number 3, I needed to be culturally aligned with those people from a value basis, and I needed to be able to have a chance to shape a culture based on my own value system and be able to recruit as per that. So when you look at those 4 things, you go, that might present an opportunity to find a new home and start a new chapter. So in terms of summarizing that lesson, what I say to you is take a moment. Just because that you're in a great company with brilliant leadership who are doing very well, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can be an authentic leader in their guise. Take a moment to understand what does leadership mean to you, and define it, and go seek out leaders that will champion your qualities and empower you and give you a platform to grow. Because finding champions of you as individuals is probably the most meaningful thing you can do in your career, because those people will provide a platform for you to accelerate your own lives very quickly. If you're misaligned, you'll always feel repressed, you'll always feel resentful, and you'll never really feel that you can express yourself in your own way as a true leader. So that's the lesson of summary for number 2. So in terms of concluding this, I think my advice is, number 1, don't sell yourself short. Seek out excellence and don't compromise on that. Set yourself a really meaningful high bar, because this is the chance you have to do it as individual contributors. Why not go and work for the best of the very best? And then when you find those people, don't just accept that they're the people that take you into leadership. Find your tribe that you can go the distance with, because the biggest investment you can make is making compound interest in relationships that last a long time. Because if you make those investments with people for a short period of time, it runs out quickly. Thanks.